Welcome back. This is Take Action News. I'm Carl Frisch all afternoon. More about me at carlfrisch.com. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the other social medias you can possibly think of out there at Carl Frisch. That's KarlFrisch. Don't forget to connect with the show at takeactionnews.com. Follow us and engage with us on Twitter and Facebook as well. We were chatting earlier in the first hour of the show about the poor shaming that's going on. Tina Dupuy having coined the term, as far as I know, and really addressing the way that conservatives in this country make the working poor and those struggling to get by feel, basically making it seem as if some kind of lack of morality, if you were only a better person, you would do better. And towards that end, I wanted to bring on Alan Pike. He's the Deputy Economic Policy Editor at Think Progress, to chat about a piece that he wrote. And this is something that's happening all too common. Didn't know if you were aware, there were 17% fewer homeless people in the U.S. in 2012 than in 2005, despite the worst economic crisis in 75 years. That's thanks primarily to the federal spending to keep at-risk Americans from eviction. 4 years later, however, those same programs are instead facing cuts and could reverse that progress. Joining me to talk about his piece, Programs That Prevented Homelessness from Spiking in Recession Face Cuts, is Alan Pike. Thanks for joining me, Alan.
Hey, Carl. Thanks for having me.
So this is something that we're seeing all over the place, whether it's these programs that helped, stop homelessness before it happened, so to speak, food stamps, whatever the case may be. These programs that are designed to keep people afloat during these tough times are being cut left and right. The rationale for them is that it's not a problem. Well, it's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg said when in her dissent in the Voting Rights Act being gutted. She said, it's like leaving your umbrella at home because you didn't get wet last time you used it in the rain.
Sure.
So what's going on with these programs for the homeless?
Well, they're fallen victim to this years-long obsession. It's been almost 3 years now that basically all Congress has been interested in doing is cutting everything that isn't nailed down. And if it is nailed down, go grab a crowbar. Let's see if we can cut it anyway.
Right.
And that across the board approach to trying to reduce deficits has meant that some of the programs that are least able to absorb any kind of cuts, because their funding is already so tight given the level of need that they serve in the country, are instead facing what amount to pretty substantial cuts to their ability to serve the purposes and the populations that they're meant to serve. So in the case of these programs through the Department of Housing and Urban Development that are relatively new on the sort of federal program timescale, that came in response to research, I believe the late 90s, that sort of uncovered for policymakers for the first time that one of the primary causes of homelessness in the first place is one of those perfectly intuitive things that maybe we shouldn't have needed studies to figure out, but we did. But the thing that causes most people to become homeless in the first place is one little hiccup in their cash flow and missing a rent payment, or getting a few months behind on a utilities bill, and eventually getting evicted. So under the theory that maybe if you could float those people for that couple of month period where they're at risk of eviction, you could keep them in their apartment or their house or whatever.
Well, and a lot of these people are doing precisely what they're told is the American dream, right? Work hard, play by the rules, and you'll get ahead. And like you said, one hiccup. And when we say hiccup, it could be a hiccup. It could be some kind of freak medical situation with a child, or it could be a family emergency of some kind that keeps you from being able to afford your rent for a month.
Right. And this program, this series of programs, has been incredibly effective at curbing the level of homelessness in the country.
Nearly 20% reduction.
Yeah.
That's a pretty huge indication that
Absolutely.
something might be working. I mean, we're so used to in these times talking about, if we can just do 3% here or 2% there. This is
Right.
almost 1 in 5.
Right, and so often with societal problems like this, you're really often the best you can do is to just sort of curb the rate of growth, reduce the homeless population as a percentage of the overall population, and so that means that there are still going to be more homeless people than there were because of population
Less
growth.
than we'd
That's not
predicted
even
there
the
would
case.
be. Right.
Right, and this is like that's normally the bar for a success story for a public program like this, and this goes far beyond that. This is an outright reduction by we're talking about hundreds of thousands of human beings in the number of people who are homeless in the United States of America and in the richest country in the world. So yeah,
Now,
you would think that if anything was going to be spared from the
if you started your sentence wrong there, if you thought you were going to convince Republicans, you said if you think
I guess that's probably
they
wrong
don't.